Realm family, welcome to Wrestling with the Realm. My name is Will. I am one half of the best podcast hosting tag team in the game. And on the other side of the screen, he is my better half. He's the Macho Man Randy Savage. To my Hollywood Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan, we are the WWR Mega Powers.
Love it. Love it. Welcome to Wrestling with the Realm, guys.
Yep. And we are kicking it off with something a little different today, something more fun. We're gonna give you guys a little bit more of an insight on some of our favorite wrestlers of all time. We
Yep.
got our Mount Rushmore of
Oh,
wrestling.
this is going to be good.
This
This is
is
going to be good.
this is
So,
something we've been excited for.
so there's no wrong answers on this. This is by no means us saying this is definitively like these are the best guys ever. Everybody's list can be different. I hope everybody who's watching, you guys just think about what your list is and your reasons why. Because I'll be honest, when I started thinking about it, there was names that popped up, and I was like, "Oh, God, I
Yeah.
forgot about them." Because it's hard, man. When you got to come up with four people are going to be on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, there are a lot of names that you have to go through
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
like, and there's so many people that feel like they're deserving to be on there, but everybody's list is going to be different or maybe not. I'm not sure. Um, but so the criteria that I looked at for this, I was kind of thinking who impacted the industry the most, and
Yep.
that's who's getting on there. And that's why some of the names that I'm going to leave off are probably going to be surprising. Um, and I'll be honest, I haven't finalized my fourth person yet. I'm still going, so you might be
Oh,
able to talk me into somebody. Will I don't know what
okay.
criteria you're using. So what are you going to gauge your picks on?
So it was hard for me. I used a lot of can you do it in the ring? Is your in-ring capability there?
Okay,
What is your legacy on professional wrestling? Like, and then I kind of did some accolade stuff.
okay.
There's one guy on my list, actually two, really, if we're being honest, that I was kind of they don't match the accolades of some of the guys that I left off of the list, but their impact on wrestling is above
Oh,
and beyond.
I think I might know who one of I'm thinking I might know who one of those is. But keep
Maybe,
going.
maybe,
Keep
yes.
going.
So, um, I guess we could start off with first before we do start. Please comment down below your guys' Mount
Yes.
Rushmore of wrestling. If there's one guy you thought that we just left off and you think that they are deserving of a spot on the Mount Rushmore, let us know. Let us know down below.
There is gonna
Um,
be there is gonna be some hate
yeah.
comments from me on one person I am leaving off. And Joe, that one's for you, buddy. You're gonna be there. That one is gonna be it's gonna be a tough one to leave off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, unless you're gonna comment Ric Flair. Don't comment Ric Flair because that's the only guy that a lot of people have on their Mount Rushmore. I'm just like, no Ric Flair.
Oh, oh, people are gonna hate us, Will.
I know
People are gonna
I'm
hate
getting us
us.
I'm getting us some heel heat like I'm Dominic Mysterio, but
Oh, nobody's getting Dom heat.
no,
Nobody's getting
not
Dom
even
heat.
us.
Oh, I love me some Dom. Dom is great.
Yeah, he's not quite on my Mount Rushmore yet, but
No,
he
but
maybe one day.
and oh, you know what we're gonna have? Okay, so here's what we're gonna have to do. So we're doing Mount Rushmore. I think at a certain point we're gonna have to do like Mount Rushmore of tag teams, Mount Rushmore of heels and faces,
Oh yeah.
because then we can start breaking it down because then it
Mm-hmm.
gets real. Oh, managers. Oh, that would be
Oh man,
awesome.
that's gonna be a
Yeah.
good one.
Oh man, I'm very excited for that now.
Um,
All right. Who wants it? Will you go first? You give me one. We'll go back and forth. We'll go
okay,
back and forth until we get them.
sounds good. I'm gonna give you real quick two honorable mentions that it
Yep.
was just hard for me to leave off. Um, and gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but
Oh, who
The
is it?
Undertaker did
Yep.
not make
Oh,
my Mount Rushmore.
yes. Will.
Um, that was a tough
Yep.
one for me, man. Taker's legacy on the sport of
Yep.
professional wrestling is just the accolades, the streak. I mean, sitting
Yep.
here and talking about it, like I it's like how could I have left him off? And my next guy is Triple H. Triple
Okay.
H's impact goes beyond his in-ring career. What I
Yep.
mean, in 2021 to now, damn near saved professional
Yep.
wrestling from a just from a dark place that it was in. So shout out to him too. Do you
I
got
hadn't
two
even
or
thought
three
about
guys?
Trip. Boy, I hadn't even thought about him, but Undertaker is not on my list either, and it
Hmm.
pained me to not
Yeah.
put him on my list, and it was hard. And so last night we had a big family get together for a birthday, and I was asking a lot of people who I know watch wrestling or are wrestling fans, and I'm asking them who's on their Mount Rushmore, and Taker would come up, and I'm like, he's constant. He's one of the greatest to do it of all time,
Yeah.
but I don't know if the industry was changed because of Undertaker. I know people are going to hate us for that, but he was a constant, but I don't know if you can put him over some of the other names that I think we're probably going to say.
Yeah. I mean, he was always consistent, but where like did he have that huge impact, that big moment you can just keep going back to? I mean, we could probably get grilled in the comments about it. I'm sure there's plenty of moments, but I mean, once again, my list.
I
I
mean,
just got four other guys that popped into my mind before.
but when we think of some of the Undertaker's things where you go a moment that sticks out, what is when you think of the Undertaker, what is the very first thing that pops in your head when you think of him as far as moments go?
Brock Lesnar beating him.
Oh,
At,
see that? Okay, see now this is going to add credence to why maybe he's not on the list.
yeah.
Brock Lesnar beating him, that's a Brock moment, not an Undertaker moment. When I
Hmm.
think of Undertaker in my head, all I see is him grabbing Mick Foley and throwing him off of the top Hell in a Cell. And I
Yeah.
go, that's a Mick Foley moment, though. That's not an Undertaker moment. He was there,
Agreed.
but that's a Mick
Agreed.
Foley moment. And that's, I think, and that is not a knock on The Undertaker at all.
No, you
If
can't knock the
anything, it's
Undertaker.
the Undertaker carried the industry very quietly. He was solid as Sears to be able to be that guy to put other guys over and to give other guys that rub of the Undertaker. If you
Yep.
needed somebody to get over, you put him with the Undertaker. That doesn't put him above though, I think, some of the other people. So yeah,
Yeah.
boy. Sorry,
i
Taker. It really does hurt.
yeah. I'm gonna
It
get
does.
started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got my guy. I got to me who is the GOAT. I have John Cena.
Okay.
And this is just for me as a kid growing up to never give up. The impact he has left on so many people like my age. Like him coming back for this retirement tour is like just the greatest thing ever for us. I mean, 16-time champ. Like I don't need to sit here and go over accolades for anyone about John Cena. Um, to me, he's just in ring. He might not have as much skills as some of the other guys on my list, but the impact on the sport, the make a wish, he's just a good dude.
Yep.
I mean, two-time Royal Rumble winner. He won the Money in the Bank, Grand Slam, headlined WrestleMania 5 times. And then you go over some of the matches he had, like him versus Shawn Michaels for the WWE Championship, WrestleMania 23 is a classic. I have two other matches I highlighted was him versus Daniel Bryan, 2013 SummerSlam, where he put Daniel Bryan over.
Yeah.
Was a phenomenal match. Him versus Seth Rollins outside of at SummerSlam, outside of the Jon Stewart screw job when he came in and hit Cena with the chair. Like that's one of the best technical wrestling matches in my lifetime. And his feuds with the likes of CM Punk. I have the 2011 Money in the Bank
Yeah.
match highlighted. That's one of the greatest feuds of my lifetime again. And it was elevated by the stuff CM Punk was doing, but John Cena is just a consistent in so many great feuds. Edge, Orton, Big Show, JBL. I mean, he has had
Yep.
so many legendary feuds. Triple H. I mean,
Yep.
his match versus Triple H at WrestleMania 22 is another great match. So, I mean, that he's just and he's the first person on my list, and he's probably not even on yours if I were to take a guess, but go into what you got for your first person on your list.
So my first pick, John Cena.
Oh,
John
that's a
Cena.
shocking
And
one.
and I will be honest, I didn't get talked into John Cena. But Stevie D, shout out, buddy, made a hard case for John Cena, and I really had to look at some of the other people who I put on there. I I look at it and I go, it feels like it would be a crime to not have John Cena on that Mount Rushmore for what he did for professional wrestling. If you
Yeah,
didn't have John Cena, the business probably wouldn't be what it is today if we
no.
didn't have him. And that I think it like you can't undersell that. You can't downplay that. And that's where it comes back to Taker, where I go, yeah, Taker was that guy who you always knew you could count on. But if Undertaker wasn't there and John Cena was, John Cena kept it going. If John Cena wasn't there and
Yeah.
only Taker was, I don't know if we would be where we were today. And again, it's not a knock on Taker. It's just his character was a different animal all by itself. He was that guy you didn't need to put the belt on because he was almost like Piper in that regard. Like Piper, you didn't have to put a belt on Piper because he was his own thing. He was an attraction.
Hmm.
Jake the Snake, he's an attraction on his own. You don't need something else. And that is its own accolade in a way. But I have John Cena on my Mount Rushmore.
That is great to hear.
I know. That's the first little zig and zag that you probably weren't expecting. Is
Yeah,
that
I really didn't think he was on your list, but I mean, just another quick point on John Cena. When Austin left, when Rock left,
mm-hmm,
when Brock left and didn't come back, when I mean, not Kurt Angle, but he did eventually leave, left, John Cena stepped up. And like you said, Taker was there, but John stepped up in a huge way and kind of just took the industry over for 15 plus years.
yep. Um, so all right, I'll go into my second guy.
Yeah, give me your second.
So I'll give a couple of people who I'll do a couple of honorable mentions who aren't going on mine either. You hit on Undertaker. Um, Again, it's kind of weird because it almost feels like there should be a Mount Rushmore for each era of the WWE,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we're going big scale here. We're going all
Hmm.
time, and it sucks because some guys fall through the cracks. Uh, Macho Man falls through the cracks, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and that pains me to do that. Uh, Here's a funny one. So, so Stevie D and my wife. For everybody who doesn't know Stevie D, he's our guy.
That
Um,
is our guy.
and he had Ultimate Warrior on his. I asked my wife, who was a very casual fan when she was growing up, more of WCW than anything else. Um, but I asked her, and she said, "Yeah, the Ultimate Warrior," and I was like, "Okay, the only way the Ultimate Warrior is getting close to this mountain is if he buys a ticket to see it. He's not getting anywhere close to this Mount Rushmore." And I'm like, yeah, that is definitely not happening. But like Macho Man falls through. Boy, I'm stalling right now because I'm very conflicted still about my last person. I still am not sure
Yeah.
on on who that last person is going to be. Um, so I'll take one of the layups. I'll take one of the easy ones that I have. Hulk Hogan is on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Um, Hogan is Hogan. We all know his nonsense. We know his stories are amazingly funny if you know what the actual stories are. Uh,
Yeah.
but not putting him on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling would just be silly. There would not be professional wrestling as we know it today if it was not for him. I mean that is a stone cold, pun intended, a stone cold fact that Hogan has to be on there. And if you left him off of yours, I would love to know why. So I have Cena, and now I'm throwing Hogan up.
I don't have Hulk Hogan on
Oh, I
mine.
knew it. I knew you weren't going to have him.
He just, I mean, he could go in the ring. His impact on wrestling, he is, I mean, the sports entertainment side of professional wrestling to a T. I mean, even to a Mr. T. Like
Oh, that was
he,
good, Will. That was a good
what,
one.
yeah, I had that one in the bag for a while.
That was
But
good.
even when he brought Mr. T out and like he he is a pop culture icon too. There's
Yep.
people with Hulkamania shirts that have never watched the Hulk Hogan match before in their
True.
life. Um, I guess just the other guys I have on my list do other things for me. Um, and I'll go into one of them right now. Stone Cold Steve Austin made my list. He is just in the ring. He had some phenomenal matches, but more just on the mic. His feud
Yep.
with Vince McMahon, to me,
Oh,
and not even
yes.
The Rock, his feud with Vince McMahon
Yeah.
is one of the greatest feuds in professional wrestling
So
history.
true. Yep.
I mean, Vince could never make a Mount Rushmore because one, crappy human being. Two,
Yep.
um, he could never go in the ring. But man, greatest heels of all time,
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon might be on that Mount Rushmore. I mean, he's
You're fine. Yeah, you really got to get. Yeah, Vince could. He could go on the mic. I will say that
yeah,
if you're talking about mic skills, he could go.
yeah. I mean, and some of the matches I highlighted were, I mean, any of the main events versus The Rock at WrestleMania. He's a six-time world champion, two-time intercontinental champion, and in the same way, like the pop culture side of it with the Hulkamania, I'd like to argue Austin 316 might be bigger than that. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just such an icon in that with his catchphrase and the middle fingers in the air, and he's phenomenal. I mean, his matches versus Bret Hart, his match versus Shawn at WrestleMania for the championship. I mean, he has so, and he's a three-time Rumble winner. I mean, he might have more accolades than the Hulkster outside of Hulkster as that ginormous reign that was just so long. And
Yeah.
it's the second longest reign of all time. Um yeah, I don't know. It was tough to have take the Hulkster off, and you want to know why I he might not be on there for me is I really didn't take into credit his WCW work.
Oh, right. Yep.
I kind that
See,
kind of just passed my mind.
and
You're
that was one of the things that when I was going through Hogan, it took me a long time until I came to the realization. I went, oh man, I was like, it's not even just the Hulkamania stuff. He actually brought he brought in the next era of wrestling with the Hollywood Hogan persona and the NWO. I mean, that was another
yeah.
turn the page moment in the industry when we got to that, and he was part of that. So it's a weird thing where he seemed to have he was involved in two big chunks of time
hmm
with two totally different characters, but it's he has to be on there. But it's
You're
your list,
talking
Will.
me into him. You're talking me
There's no
into him.
wrong
I don't think
answers,
I can
Will.
swerve right now because I love the two guys I got left so much. But
So
you
keeping
take a swing
score
with your
right
third
now,
guy.
I have Cena Hogan, and you have Cena and Stone
Austin.
Cold.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. My third, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, you can't leave him
Same as
off,
you.
man. Icon.
I could not. The first, he was the third name that popped onto mine immediately. And I was like, when he said Austin 316 just says, I whooped your ass, that it changed wrestling. Like
Yep.
literally that promo at King of the Ring changed everything when he
Yeah.
dropped that line. I mean, credit to Steve for being able to pull that one out. He clearly had his pulse on what was happening. He knew where to go with that. He was smart enough to look at the angle that Jake Roberts had going at that time with the alcohol and the demons and getting cleaned up and being born again and all that. Like he had enough forethought and had enough psychology of wrestling to know where it was heading and how he could push that boundary. And when he went, you can have all your Bible verses and your Psalms or whatever, and you got your John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, "Whooped your ass." Like it changed everything. And
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about what you were saying with his feud with Vince. That was one of the greatest feuds ever. You are so right because it was the boss man against the employee, and everybody hated Mr. McMahon. He was, if we do a heel Mount Rushmore, going to be hard not to put the Mr. McMahon character on there
Yeah.
because that is a great heel, and him and Austin's feud. I mean, just think of all of the things that went in to that feud with Austin and McMahon. You had Kurt Angle involved for a while. The
Yeah.
Rock was always omnipresent in it, but it always came down to it was Stone Cold and Vince. And Stone Cold just you almost can't put like a number or something on how much he impacted the industry. So he was a no-brainer that Stone Cold is on. He's my three.
Yep. And I mean, in many ways, like wrestling, like it's an escape from reality
Yep.
in a way. And I think this is something you might have said to me and how Austin related to people. It's like how many people had in the past just like hated their boss. And like
Yeah.
I think this is something you brought up to me. I don't hate my boss. Shout out Mr. J, great dude. But um there's so many people that can relate to that. Austin's just an icon in that way.
Yep.
And I'll go into my third. I think I have the greatest in-ring talent of all time. And I don't think it's a hot take. I think
Don't do
Shawn
it.
Michaels. Shawn
Oh, okay.
Michaels.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Bret Hart, and I was going to lose my mind.
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Shawn
well,
Michaels.
we just lost all the Bret Hart fans.
You know, we don't. I don't know if we need the Bret Hart and Ric Flair fans. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Just kidding. Just
no.
kidding, man. Just kidding.
Oh,
But his career was cut short by injuries. He missed a big
yep.
chunk of the Attitude Era. So the accolades: three-time WWE champion, one-time World Heavyweight champion. But it's the matches. Undertaker WrestleMania 25 is one of the best
Yeah.
WrestleMania matches ever.
Yep.
Um, WrestleMania 26 Undertaker career versus streak is not as good of a wrestling match, but an in-ring storyline was phenomenal. Um, his Iron Man match with Bret Hart was a
Yeah.
good match as well. Um, him versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21 might be the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Oof.
I mean,
That's high praise.
that I know it is high praise. Of course you got him versus Scott Hall. I mean, sorry, Razor Ramon. He was not Scott Hall yet, but
Oh,
there's
Razor
so many good
Ramon.
matches. I think, and first of all, he had a good match with Ric Flair. That is hard. That and not like prime Ric Flair, not like the Nature Boy. I'm talking like a 55, 57-year
Yes.
old
Yep.
man.
That
He put
actually was a really good match, and that's some of I honestly agree that that's some of Sean's best like storytelling in the ring. Like
Yeah,
when he says like I'm sorry before he drops him in that
yeah,
match, it's really really good stuff. Where it's like that that's really good stuff.
yeah, it is. And Three Stages of Hell with Triple H was another just phenomenal in-ring storytelling as well as an in-ring storytelling. I mean, you have such a I mean, he's great on the mic as well.
Yep.
You have such a great character and you can go in the ring like he does. I mean, he wasn't doing the springboard 450 splashes. He's not super fancy, but everything he does, the suplexes, the drop kicks, the super kick, the elbow drop. I mean, there's just no one that does it as clean as Shawn Michaels did it. He has so many amazing matches. It was hard for me to leave him off the list just from an in-ring standpoint. I don't think there's anyone that would disagree with the in-ring part of it. I mean, he doesn't have the accolades, but when you think of like, a moment with Shawn that like transcended the business it was I'm sorry, I love you, and then he drops Ric Flair with the
Yeah.
kick. I
Yep.
mean, that's stuff will show people for years and years on that are training to become professional
Yep.
wrestlers. Just taking that moment in the ring to say that, like no mic needed, they zoomed in
Yep.
on them. I mean, just phenomenal stuff. Shawn Michaels is, for a long time, was my favorite wrestler of all time until I really started getting into all of it. But I'll just go back and turn on Shawn Michaels matches. He's just
Yep.
phenomenal.
I love me some Shawn Michaels. He is
Yeah.
one of my favorites just because he's funny as hell, and that always went a very long way for me. But he also could back it up in the ring
Hmm.
and was always entertaining. I mean, when I was a kid and the Rockers came around, I would be at recess in elementary school. But we were always the Rockers, and we'd be having matches at recess in elementary school. I was always Marty Jannetty because I had dark hair. He had blonde hair, so he was Shawn Michaels, and I loved the Rockers. And then once Shawn spun out on his own, and you got that heel Heartbreak Kid, the boy toy, I was just like, this is so great. And he proves how great he was in the ring that if you go back and watch some of those middling WrestleManias, you go to like 7, 8, 9, go to some of those. Even before that, they would always start with a Rockers match or Shawn Michaels because
Yeah.
you had to start that event in a good way, and you always knew that you can count on Shawn to go out there and produce and put on a good show, and he always did that. Not on my list, but hats off
Yeah.
to Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Super quick notes on Shawn Michaels. Um, Throwing Marty Jannetty through the glass,
Awesome,
iconic moment.
awesome.
Um, the presser on Monday Night Raw where they were saying that like the network says we cannot say this and
Yep,
that. I mean,
yep.
iconic stuff. The invasion of WCW.
Amazing. Yep.
His work with DX was phenomenal, and that's something I really didn't even touch on. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can go to
true.
your fourth. You can go to your
Yep.
fourth off that.
Well, so Will, you have Cena, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
I have Cena, Hogan, Stone Cold. I still don't know where I'm going with this fourth one. I
Okay.
honestly still I am still torn on where I go with it. And I think I'm gonna have to go with what my initial thought was when I first thought of this the other day. Um, it's Andre the Giant. I'm going Andre.
Oh,
And
wow.
I
Andre.
I
Okay.
I know. And it was between him and Taker trying to figure out who I was gonna leave off of this list. It doesn't seem right for me to leave Andre off because he's so so here in the state of Wisconsin, we have the Green Bay Packers, and Packer great Leroy Butler was always uh, always had a great saying when it came to the Green Bay Packers that the Lombardi 60 Packers, they are the universe. All the other Packer teams after that, the 90s teams with Favre and all those guys, they're just planets inside that universe. That's almost how Andre is. Andre is so larger than life when it comes to professional wrestling that people who don't even know professional wrestling will recognize him instantly if you were to
Yeah.
see him. I think
Mhm.
he brought, we might not have a Hulk Hogan in Hulkamania if we didn't have Andre. And he was larger than life and maybe bigger than the industry with the spectacle that he was.
Yeah.
So it almost didn't feel right to leave him off.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, there's no arguing with who Andre was and how big he
Yeah.
was at the beginning of, I mean, professional wrestling as a whole. So,
Yeah.
you know, I cannot argue with that. I'm going on the opposite end of the timeline. Here's one that I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on. And I don't know if I can necessarily blame him because he's still going today. I got the tribal chief. He Roman Reigns. He is on my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Um, I don't think I could leave him off for when I came back, I started watching WrestleMania again. I mean wrestling again as a whole around WrestleMania 39 when he had that last I mean 38 when he had that last match with Brock Lesnar and I was like, man, nothing's new. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar again. But then I started tuning into weekly television. And when he is there, it made things feel bigger. He wasn't always on weekly television. But when he was there, it felt like you had to watch. And it still
Mm-hmm.
is to this day. He was part of the most compelling storyline
Yeah.
in the last
That's true.
forever in wrestling. I mean, there's some
Yep.
people that say the Bloodline storyline is the best storyline in wrestling history. I don't know if I can go there, but Roman Reigns is the reason for that.
Yeah.
Um, I credit a lot of that to the pandemic. That changed Roman Reigns when he was able to slow everything down
Mm-hmm.
and create the tribal chief character with Paul Heyman. I mean, that's when he really tuned it up with his original feud with Jey Uso when he was talking to him in the ring and the camera was up close and you could hear what he was saying and
Mm-hmm.
like he truly slowed everything down and built the tribal chief character. I mean, his title reign, I got the number here, 1,316 days. He has that big
It's a
title
long
reign like the
time.
Hulkster, and it felt like a long time at some points.
Yeah.
But those points were when he wasn't on TV. I mean, I could, everyone knows the Bloodline storyline. I don't need to sit here and break it down, but you have so many moments. When Sami Zayn came in, I feel like that's when it really picked up for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have him versus Sammy at Elimination Chamber. When Sammy turned on him at the Rumble and they had that match at Elimination Chamber, there was no bigger heel on the planet that I've seen. And once again, I didn't watch Vince McMahon back in the Attitude Era, but what the way Roman got booed when he came out was insane. I mean, it was in Sami Zayn's hometown, of course. They were cheering for the
Yep.
hometown hero, but that was just it was an eye-opening moment. I was like, wow, Roman Reigns is really that guy. You have the two matches versus Cody. I mean, WrestleMania 39 was phenomenal, but WrestleMania 40 is, I mean, once again, without Roman Reigns, you don't have Cody Rhodes, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yep.
He built Cody into who he is, and Cody's my favorite wrestler right now. He made the biggest face in professional wrestling right now.
Yeah.
Roman did. He was the
Yep.
biggest heel. And now you have him come back now, and he might be the biggest face. He might have taken that spot. People love the OTC.
Yep.
Um, yeah, he's a four-time WWE champion, three-time Universal champion. His work with the Shield, of course, was great with Seth Rollins and John Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose. So, I mean, you have so many two-time Rumble winner, and he had great feuds with Brock. And I just think for me in my generation of wrestling right now, Roman is just the pinnacle. He is the GOAT right now. So that's my last one. I know it's not Hulk Hogan. I know it's not Ric Flair. It's a little more modern.
That's okay. So for everybody who wants the final count, Ryan has Cena, Hogan, Stone Cold, and Andre the Giant. And Will, your final count is
I got Cena, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold, and I got the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns.
man. See, our lists were more like you weren't expecting Cena
I
on
wasn't.
mine,
I wasn't.
and I honestly I was expecting Hogan on yours. I'm shocked that he didn't show up, but
I know. It was tough for me to leave him off. He was on my honorable mentions list. So,
yep. Ric Flair didn't make either one of our lists, and I know people are going to be mad about that. I know you guys are going to comment below about that. Ric Flair, I love Ric Flair for what he does. I love Ric Flair, the character. When I think about the industry and wrestling, Ric Flair just doesn't, he doesn't move the needle that way for me. I don't, I know people love Ric Flair, and I know I, I, I get his appeal on a comedy level. I don't get his appeal on a moving the needle emotionally level, I guess is what I would say.
yeah, I mean, to me, Ric Flair in the ring, it's the same match every time.
Yes.
And I know that's coming from a guy that does have Roman Reigns on his list, but at least Roman Reigns has outside factors and elements that changed his matches up. And to me, at the end of Flair's career, he had the perfect retirement match with Shawn Michaels,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came out of retirement and he did work in TNA and he did
Yeah,
work in, I mean, other companies, and it puts a little, it dims down his legacy. So, I mean, he is an icon, but not for me, not a Mount Rushmore type of player.
I agree. When I go back to some of these guys, I mean, I hate to say it, but back in the territory days, when Vince started up with WWF and he got that going, that became the gold standard. And when Flair came to WWF in his first run, it never took off. They couldn't get Hogan Flair to get any traction because
Yeah.
us WWF fans just didn't we didn't buy it. We didn't have a connection, and maybe that's my fault for not being a more well-rounded 8-year old at the time. But but I love Ric Flair. I love what he does. But like you said, I just don't think it gets up on the Mount Rushmore.
All right. I think that wraps it up for us. As always, shout out to the Realm Paranormal Podcast. Shout out
Exactly.
to Brian. It was another great episode here on Wrestling with the Realm. Brian, send us off.
Yeah, that was fun, Will, because I didn't know where you were going to go. I'm glad that we
Yeah.
had a couple of the same guys and for very similar reasons. So that's always a lot of fun if we can agree on something. So I thought this was a lot of fun. I think we got to do those other Mount Rushmores. I think that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
We got to get a heel and a face. There's going to be good guys. I feel like we got some good stuff coming up.
Yep.
So we see you guys next time. I'm Brian, and that's Will for the Wrestling with the Realm podcast. Peace out, you guys. We'll catch you later.